Welcome to the very first episode of Stunt Bunny Gaming. Cut the music. Thank you. Today in this first ever episode of Stunt Bunny Gaming, we will be attempting to create and construct the true timeline of Hyrule Historia, not the confusing, convoluted, weird thing they give us in Hyrule Historia. So, let's get started. In Hyrule Historia, we're given the names of these crazy eras and periods of time, starting with Skyward Sword. It also divides the timeline into 3 different paths by the end of Ocarina of Time, based off Link's triumph or defeat in the child and adult eras. This is all just too confusing and convoluted, and besides that, believe it or not, none of it is true. Not only that, but now that more games have been released, such as Breath of the Wild and A Link Between Worlds, we're missing pieces of the timeline. This episode will fix all of that and give you the truth behind Hyrule's vast and complicated history. So clearly, there's no way there could possibly be this many Links, Impas, Zeldas, or Ganons. How uncreative. How lame. How... Anyway, it's simply not plausible, no matter what sort of mythology Hyrule might have. Now, the way this episode pieces things together, Link always has access to the Master Sword, which is available either in the Temple of Time or the Sacred Grove. You see, Link can live through the 7 years the Master Sword skips in Ocarina of Time if he simply leaves the Master Sword in the pedestal. By doing that, he can live through the actual child era, and when he's come of age, then he takes the Master Sword and lives through the actual adult era. In the gameplay for Ocarina of Time, we never see the events of the child era, because Link picks up the Master Sword to rescue the sages in the beginning of the adult era. Then, at the end of the game, Link is returned to the child era so he can relive those 7 years he missed, which are the events of the other games in the child era. Now we'll actually put the games in their proper places. Obviously, Skyward Sword is first, since it describes the events taking place directly after creation. After this is the era of Chaos, where Roru seals the sacred realm through the construction of the Temple of Time. This is one of the few places where a lot of years pass by, like an actual era, not those tiny little chunks of time that you see in Hyrule Historia like the Twilight Era and all that sort of thing. Once all these years have passed, the events of Ocarina of Time take place. The all-new Link, as a child, gains access to the Master Sword for the first time, and then, as an adult, he rescues the 7 sages, fights Ganondorf for the first time ever in history, and restores peace. The sages begin producing descendants. Then, at the end of the game, Princess Zelda restores Link to his child form. This is a crucial part of the storyline. If it wasn't for that, the child era events would never take place. No, not the dumb events in Hyrule Historia, I mean the actual events that we'll get to soon. Now that Link is a child again, it's time for him to live those 7 long years he missed while he was asleep in the Chamber of the Sages. A lot of people think that Majora's Mask is the sequel to Ocarina of Time. However, this is not true. The real sequel is the Minish Cap. Please, allow me to explain before you bombard me with questions in the comments. Ganondorf is trapped in the Dark Realm. Therefore, a new villain comes to take his place, and that new villain arrives in the form of Vaati the Wind Sorcerer. Link, a child, goes through all his trials with the Picori sword in the Minish village and meets a character named Ezlo. Believe it or not, Ezlo is the key to this timeline. At the very beginning of Majora's Mask, we are told that the hero of Hyrule, who is obviously Link, goes in search of a long-lost friend. This cutscene is not referring to Navi, it's referring to Ezlo. At the end of Minish Cap, Ezlo leaves for the Minish village. The events of 4 Swords take place near the time of Majora's Mask, meaning that Vaati returns. Who knows what sort of horrors Vaati could be putting Ezlo through for helping Link defeat him the first time. Listen to the opening words of Majora's Mask. Done with the battles he once waged across time, he embarked on a journey, a secret and personal journey. You see, right here you can notice that Ezlo was very close to Link. They went through a lot together, and now they're separated by Vaati. Keep listening. A journey in search of a beloved and invaluable friend. Ezlo truly was invaluable. He helped Link through all sorts of trials by giving him advice, explaining things about the world, and being a tough mentor and companion. The words continue. A friend with whom he parted ways when he finally fulfilled his heroic destiny and took his place among legends. It's so obvious now, isn't it? At the end of Minish Cap, Link and Ezlo part ways. Link had fulfilled his heroic destiny by defeating Vaati, and he certainly took his place among legends after beating first Ganondorf and then the Wind Sorcerer. So it's obvious. The song may seem like a stretch, but the evidence is here. Majora's Mask is the sequel to Minish Cap, not Ocarina of Time. The events of this Dark Zelda game take place, with Link successfully driving off Majora, and he, not having found Ezlo anywhere in Termina, even by exploring all 4 corners of that world, then leaves through the Lost Woods, setting the scene for the next game in line, 4 Swords. 4 Swords takes place. And after that comes the part that Nintendo actually got right, the trilogy progression of Wind Waker, Phantom Hourglass, and Spirit Tracks. Wind Waker is first, introducing characters like Valu and Jabin Jabin. First, a quick note about Valu and the others. These are the descendants of the original sages in Ocarina of Time. Jabin is from the Zora region, from Jabu Jabu. Valu is clearly from the Gorons, concerning Volvagia. And this is the good part. The Deku Tree is the Deku Tree sprout found at the end of Ocarina of Time. It all connects perfectly. There are other examples of this too. Makar and Fado are descendants of the Kokiri race, while Laruto is clearly from the race of the Zoras. Also, you can see in stained glass windows the original sages from Ocarina of Time. After Wind Waker is Phantom Hourglass, which temporarily transforms the Master Sword into the Phantom Sword so Link can defeat the new enemy Balin. Then after Phantom Hourglass is Spirit Tracks, which introduces yet another new villain known as the Demon King Malladus. Zelda is transformed into a spirit until she gets her body back from Chancellor Cole, who is, spoiler alert, the vessel for Malladus. So now Link is both the hero of time and the hero of winds. Now he's going to move on and explore 2 whole new continents, Labrina and Holodrum. After this is Triforce Heroes, where Link can again have doppelgangers, except the 4-sword, or the 3-sword in this case, is nowhere to be seen. After the events of this unique game have taken place, with Lady Mao defeated and Princess Syla restored to power, Link travels yet again to a new place called Culhint Island. Yes, we've reached Link's awakening. Now, some theorize that Culhint Island is actually a dream, but this is simply not the case. It's a real place, with real people, with real instruments like the full moon cello and the thunder drum and the chord. And you'll notice that the owners of Lon Lon Ranch, Malon and Talon, enjoy traveling too, because you can find them on Culhint Island with Link. So now Link is an adult, and the child era has passed. Since the adult events of Ocarina of Time have already taken place, the timeline moves on to the next game, The Legend of Zelda. Link is forced to retrieve the 8 pieces of the Triforce of Wisdom. Have you noticed that 8 is a prevalent number in this timeline? Link and the 7 sages make 8. There are 8 instruments of the Sirens, 8 pieces of the Triforce of Wisdom. 3 is also important. 3 pure metals, 3 pieces of the Triforce, 3 spiritual stones, and in the future, Link will need to obtain 3 mirror shards for the Twilight Mirror. Next is Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, in which Link learns how to jump. Up until now, he's never been very good at that, and he gets even better in Breath of the Wild. Then the events of A Link to the Past take place, with the rise and fall of Aghanim, the rise and fall of Ganon, and the rise and fall of Link's uncle. After this happens, a critical juncture takes place in which many years pass. Yes, once again, many years pass, and a new Link rises. So now we're on our 3rd life. And by that, I mean our 3rd Link. See, I told you 3 was an important number. It not only refers to all sorts of other things, but it also refers to the actual number of Links that are found in this actual history of Hyrule. In this new era, A Link Between Worlds is the first to take center stage, once again revolving around 2 separate yet nearly identical worlds, this time known as Hyrule and Lorule. After defeating Ganon and a new enemy, Yuga, Link moves on to work through 3 of his worst adventures, the CDI games. Link, The Faces of Evil, Zelda, The Wand of Gamelon, and Zelda's Adventure are all next. They are so horrible, I won't even go through them. They have virtually no connection to any other events in the timeline so far, and I hesitated even to include them in this historic thread. That's how terrible a job you did on these 3 games, Phillips. No offense. Another crucial section of the timeline is next, Twilight Princess. Once again, traces of the original races of years ago can be found here. The Zoras have evolved a little, the Gorons are the same as ever, but apparently more politically inclined to violence, and the Kokiri are nowhere to be found, although in the Temple of Time you can see their symbol adorning one of the walls. Also, Link transforms into a wolf a lot in this game. In A Link to the Past, he transforms into a cute little pink bunny. That's because the Link in this game is a descendant of the Link that we saw in Ocarina of Time. We see evidence of this in the presence of the Hero's Shade. The Hero's Shade is the adult Link from the adult events in Ocarina of Time. Years after these events, not a lot of years mind you, Breath of the Wild takes place. Here we can see descendants of the sages we saw in Link Between Worlds in the forms of Derek, Mipha, and Urbosa, along with others. You'll also notice that items from past games can be found in Hyrule, such as Midna's helmet or Makar's face from the Wind Waker. So clearly, Breath of the Wild is the last installment of the timeline. And that's all for now, folks. We've successfully completed the true timeline of Hyrule Historia, with all its many iterations and eras. Thanks for watching this very first episode of Stunt Bunny Gaming. please subscribe to the channel, please give it a thumbs up, and believe me, you will not be disappointed. I will see you next time on Stunt Bunny Gaming.
Farewell.